Okay, I want to tell a thought that I think is really helpful to everybody who is, if you are a person who had a discovery of God and faith in the middle of your emotional healing process, or you grew up with really hard experiences, or you encountered really hard experiences and you've been through a lot of pain, a lot of difficulty, and you discovered God, and you started studying faith, and things really, you know, became undeniable in that way. So I was exploring that with a client today, and I just really learned something from her. So thank you to D so and so in the Chicago, in the Phoenix area actually, and what we were talking about is her anger at God. Now, how does that happen? It's pretty easy, because if you discover divine providence, that everything in the world, is being orchestrated and created and renewed by God, then, there's no more blaming anybody. There's no more saying it's my wife's fault. It's my husband's fault. It's my parents' fault. It's that evil dude from whenever. It's the guy in college's fault. It's my boss's fault, because we're learning, like the holy mystical text, the Zohar says, that everything that happens is from God through his divine providence, and there are many, many ways that he brings them into our life. And that presents us with a problem. If I didn't have any of that faith and that discovery, and it wasn't real to me, well, I could just say, oh, what it is, what it is. People do bad things. But now that I know that God was orchestrating it through this person, I got a problem, because I know where this goes. Don't shoot the waiter, they say. So instead, I'm not going to shoot God, the cook who cooked it up. But what am I going to do? I'm mad at God, but I don't want to be, because I know he's good. I know he's grace-filled. I know he loves me. I know that he's there for me, and I want to believe that he knows what he's doing. But then we struggle to believe that because of the suffering we've been through, because of the pain that's in our hearts. And it's hard to explain to the self, how is it that a good God, who's loving and grace and so kind, would allow, or even more, orchestrate such a thing in my life? And that's not an easy question to answer, which, when you really think about it, of course, it's not an easy question to answer. Like I learned from saintly, Rabbi Arish, through the holy, Lazer Brody, his student translator, that, we're not on Hashem's level of thinking, on God's level of thinking. So how do we expect to understand questions like this, that really come from a deeper, such complex, and, God's wisdom? The very fact that I sort of subconsciously think that I understand, and think that I know already that it's bad and that it's not right, and that God wouldn't do this, and then that it somehow contradicts his kindness, is already me, on some level, believing I know that this is wrong. Okay, maybe a person's on a higher level and say, I know it's not true, but I just can't get my emotions on board. So then, if that's true, what happens then? So now I'm stuck with a problem, which is I feel guilty that I don't have faith. I feel bad that I'm on this low level. I feel ashamed, maybe, and I won't even share it with my religious buddies and my spiritual friends, because, whoa, look, we say all these things and yet I can't live it. That's embarrassing. And then we live with shame inside, that, oh my gosh, I'm so spiritual and religious, but I don't believe in my heart, certain place in my heart, that somehow this is for the good. Okay, so that presents a double problem. Also, it presents the problem of just having difficulty moving forwards, because that which you resist persists. When you fight the straitjacket, as I spoke with another client the other day, the main thing that happens is you get a lot of abrasions from the material that's on the straitjacket. So even though those answers are hard, if not impossible, and are a waste of time to think about, easy to understand but hard to do is the choice to accept the truth that the Judeo-Christian, Muslim, Hindu, other karmic traditions, and everybody, even Baha'i, that's what I was trying to think of, Baha'i. So, but for sure we know that everything God does is part of his plan. He knows what he's doing. He does not make a mistake. So the easy fix, which is the correct truth, really, is to accept that. It's easy to understand, but it is just so hard to do. And why? Because the journey and the distance between the head and the heart is 1,000 miles. And so, but that's the work. That's the work for all of us, to practice and to pray for God's help. This is so relaxing to talk about the truth. Thank you for engaging me through this video. The truth that everything that God is doing is 100% part of the plan, and he knows what he's doing. Just a choice to believe, even though I don't see, even though I don't feel. Like, Tov lahodos Lashem, lahagi beboker hasdecha bemunascha balelos. It's good to thank and to give praise to God in the day and assert faith at night. Night is like when it's dark and I can't see, I can't perceive, and that's the time of Amunah. The day is where it's so clear and I feel God's presence in me, around me, in my friends, in my community, and we're singing and dancing and praising, and that's so wonderful. But in the darkness, and the darkness isn't just a time in our life, it's a place within us. It's a place of godlessness. It's a place where it doesn't believe that God is either exists, or that God is good, or that God knows what he's doing, or that's for the best, or that this is okay. And that place is the place we need to get through to. We need to, to talk to that part of ourselves. I know that Rebbe Nachman, in the Outpouring of the Soul, somewhere in the middle there, I remember reading by that nice translation by Aryeh Kaplan, rabbi, holy tzaddik, is that a person should talk to their body and explain to them about holy things and about Amunah. So, in cognitive therapy and Gestalt therapy, we talk about talking to yourself, having a conversation with yourself, the chair technique, all that type of stuff. So that is, I think, one way of applying the Rebbe Nachman teaching. Pardon me. There's something about truth that just soothes my heart, and then I get out of that spin. I start to get relaxed, and whenever we come out of that inner tension and stress, for me and other people I've seen, we yawn, and energy releases, and we're feeling better. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. You're making me feel better just listening. Thank you. So what we can do to apply Rebbe Nachman's teachings is to talk to our bodies, to talk to that empty area of our mind that has a lot of suffering and a lot of beliefs that's negative about life and the world and maybe ourselves, and to say, hey, I know you don't perceive it. Hey, or to myself, hey, it's true. God has a plan. God knows what he's doing. He's not too busy for me. He's not mean and rude, and he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. Does he know what he's doing? Yes, he knows what he's doing. And to keep pounding against that wall until, like in Shawshank Redemption, do you ever see that movie where the guy's got like a tiny little like nail or something and a small hammer, and like 7 years later he breaks through and he gets the redemption? And that's what we have to do. And if it doesn't work in 2 days, okay, I mean, I've been working on it for 2 or 3 years now, I guess, and definitely made some progress, thank God. But I'm not even close to there. I mean, I wish I was, and I want to admit, because it takes a little, me to, a little strength, vulnerability to say to you, I don't have it, and I'm embarrassed of that because, you know, on the outside I look like a real nice card carrying, Bible thumping, hippie-ish Orthodox Jew, but on the inside I have a lot of faith, but then I have pockets inside of me that are really empty and are not on board. They're not on board. So I bet you do too. Hopefully you're relating to this, and we have to get God's light in there. That is the solution, and we can get it there through truth, through getting clarity of mind, and also called by these teachers, call it Yeshuva Dat, the settling and clarity of the mind, where the truth of the mind and the wisdom becomes becomes spread and fills that empty void that's in us. And that can create tremendous healing on so many levels. And more importantly, it brings reality back, because you and I are faith agreeing people, and we believe our teachers that, and our traditions, that God is good, that God knows what he's doing. So if you think about it, then God knew what he was doing back there. Now, back there doesn't exist. I remember I've been reading lately the Mohorosh, a holy, saintly rabbi, Elazar Shlomo Schick Zatzal. May he be, remembered for all the wonderful things. He brought beautiful little books. You want them, write us. We'll send you a PDF copy or get you something somehow. And Rabbi Arsh's books, while we're mentioning, amazing, that we learn that even back then, God had a plan. It's not just like, oh, here's this great, useful point of view that I can now internalize. No, God had a plan back then, and I didn't realize it, and I still don't realize it. And so what I need to do is really upgrade my old understanding of reality. Yeah, my emotional experience is real, and not to minimize that. If you're going through, or have been through, tremendously painful and torturous mood and mind states, that's not a joke. And we can, or other great therapists, I'm not sure we're great, but other can help you with good techniques to end that, some amount of that pain, hopefully. But there's another level that we're going to have to go to get lasting healing, and that's to bring into that part of our heart that is empty of God in the story. God's not in the story. And I remember listening to a beautiful lecture a year ago or so where Gedalia Fenster, check him out on SoundCloud and YouTube, amazing speaker, where he said that it's never too late to change the past. I'm like, what? Is it a game changer idea? It's never too late to change the past? Well, after thinking about it for a while, I could explain it like this. The past doesn't exist as a Mohorosh. That's what I was trying to get to. The past does not exist. It only exists as an imprint and a memory in our minds and our brains today. So it's just a story, right? A story that's very real to us emotionally and perceptually. But if you think about it, that story is changeable. But anyone had good therapy? You change your story, right? Oh, my parents aren't jerks and meanies that just messed me up. They were good people doing the best they could with what they had, and they didn't have the skills to do what I needed or what I didn't need or whatever, right? We changed that story. So here we're just with faith. We have the opportunity to change it even further. And we can bring God back into the story. That back when my parents were accidentally not giving me something, or that bad event happened, or whatever, it's not only that it's okay and what was is. That's true, and that's important, and that's a serious thing for us to work on. But not only that, God had a plan back then. God orchestrated those events, and now my story doesn't include that. I'm not sure if I want to include it in my story, because that's what the whole video is about today. That has implications that are hard to deal with for me and for you and for others. So, but that doesn't change the reality, which is that if it's true today, in many experiences where you have that little taste of serendipity or divine providence. And it was true back then. Problem is, our story is not in the story. So we got to write new stories. And we got to put God back in the story. So that God was supervising and watching at that time. God knew what he was doing. I can't possibly understand how he does. Certainly doesn't make any sense to me. Some situations that aren't quite as heavy duty, it does make sense after a while. Oh, wow, it helped me become more compassionate for people with handicaps. Oh, wow, it helped me to find my career, to find my partner in life, or this or that, or I never would have been so strong. And that's really true, and that's awesome. But there are people out there who have been through horrendous things that I would never wish on anybody, even my enemy. And for them, that story is, how do you put God in that story? Well, you put it in with faith, believing in that which we don't perceive just because it's true, not because we perceive. And that's the work. And this really cool client I'm working with, that's what she said. She said, I'm learning already, and that's why I wanted to make this video while I'm inspired. It's like we go through these stages of light where the lights are on your head and it goes back to the dark. So she said that she has been fighting through that by realizing God loves her and accepting that he knows what he's doing. He's loved her so much, and he loved her back then. He loves her now. He's going to love her in the future. And that God's grace and is so deep, and she accepts that. She internalizes that. And that's the beautiful lesson for us to learn. We have to learn to internalize that God is in the story. So maybe, now's not the time, but I hope that we will, as a group, whoever you are out there that's listening, if you're listening and you're enjoying it, then we're part of the same soul community. We're part of the same spiritual brother sisterhood, right? Because we all resonate with this path, and that means that we can help each other. So hopefully, with us or with some other group that you feel really connected with, that you can put God back in the story and practice some method of doing that, some prayer technique, meditation technique, cognitive technique, storytelling technique, narrative therapy, Gestalt therapy. What else? Chemotherapy. What else? Psychodynamic psychotherapy on some level, except it has to include interpretations that include God. Trauma-based cognitive therapy. There's more. I don't even know them all. So things are opening back up, and there's a lot of methods to get it in there, and to pray to get it in there. God, please help me to bring into my heart the fact that you're back in the stories. Please help me in the present tense to upgrade that story, because that story only exists in your mind in the present moment. You realize that? I'm saying it because I want to realize it right now, which is that story only exists in my mind. And that story is a history. It's his story. It's her story also. It's her story, her story. And it's God's story. God's story. God's story. I never thought of that one before. God's story. His story, mystery, my story. I got to move from a mystery, I guess, to a history. My story is a mystery. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. And his story is history. That's what really happened. God's story. God's story. Go story. Go story. That's fun to play jazz with words, isn't it? So that's what we got to do. And it's a game-changing concept. It's a game-changing time. It's never too late to change the past, because we're carrying around that past like a trunk of junk with a bunch of crazy ideas and perspectives in our heads that, like the Morash said in the essay we were reading the other day, they're illusions. They're delusions. They're illusions, imaginatory interpretations of what was, and we're not in reality. And any of us who've been in therapy or recovering know we have so many distorted thoughts and experiences. Why was it any different back then? I'm freaking out. I'm angry when I'm a kid. And that's for sure distortion right there. Now, it's not normal. I'm not saying distortion's a crime. It's a normal thing, but it doesn't mean it's healthy for me spiritually. I still have to correct it, and I shouldn't be beating up myself. That is not help. I know Rabbi Arsh made so clear, and I'm so grateful. That's another game changer. So many good game changers out there. He says that criticism or self-persecution is the main crime of our generation, and that there's nothing beneficial that comes from criticizing the self, criticizing other people, criticizing our spouses, our friends. So it doesn't help. It does not help. So to summarize today, we have to put God back in the story. We have to bring the light of God to a place of darkness, like we said in other discussions and strengthening talks, that, where is God, says the holy Kotzker Rebbe, wherever you let him in. There's a part of our minds that can't let God in because of what it means. It means that I have to reconcile with the fact that a good God allowed things that are completely bad and against his will. Not easy. Can't understand it, but easy to figure out what to do and hard to apply it. So, good luck. May the force be with you. And I hope these ideas today were helpful. I hope if you haven't heard them, I hope they're game changers for you. And if you have heard them, I hope they strengthen them. And if you have any resources or ideas you want to share back with us, we always open and looking to grow. All right. Many blessings. Spread positivity and joy. I'll see you. Bye.